Welcome into the SEC on CBS postgame report presented by Bonobos, pants with the perfect fit. Georgia's fit has been on point all season, working on completing a perfect regular season. The Dogs taking one step closer, disposing of Florida today in the SEC on CBS Game of the Week. And again, led by their stout defense. Georgia wins it 34-7, 20 points off turnovers. Gators do get a touchdown, which extends a notable streak here for the Florida Gators. They have scored points in 418 straight games, a college football record that dates back to 1988. But Georgia looking to make history of their own, win their first national championship since 1980. They take care of Florida 34-7 to improve to 8-0. Get right to the site. Welcome in Gary Danielson, who joins us from Jacksonville. This Georgia defense puts on another clinic. Dogs scored 20 points off of turnovers in the first half to set the tone, Gary. Georgia has allowed 53 points total this season, fewest points allowed through 8 games since 2000. What more can you say about this Georgia defense?
I'm run out of it. We just did 3.5 hours of it, and not only are they good, athletic, and well coached, but as Kirby told Jamie at the end of the game, they're hungry to prove it. They're disciplined. They pay attention in the meetings. They encourage their teammates. To be a championship team, especially in the SEC, you're going to face high-level opponents, and you got to have every aspect together. And it appears to me that this Georgia defense does. Is the offense good enough? We'll see, but I think looking at the end of their schedule here, the next test will be the SEC championship.
You played quarterback at Purdue and then in the NFL for the Lions and Browns. You faced a number of good defenses in your day. If you're an opposing quarterback going against this Georgia defense, what's the mindset? Say a prayer and hope for the best?
Well, not really. I think you look at it that every defense, you can move the ball. Georgia was, they were good, but Florida was moving the ball. They're in the game. I think you have to be determined that you have to make quick decisions. They're very fast. They move very quickly with their zone defense, so you can't really second-guess yourself, throw late. You have to make very quick decisions, take what they give you, not be too greedy. And when you throw over the middle, you got to make sure you're throwing in that first window. When you wait, as Anthony Richardson did on that one, where he waited for the receiver to go a little bit past the linebacker, you draw guys from the other side. This Georgia defense has learned to play this zone, and now they're good at it. They were mostly man-to-man a year ago. Now they play at least half the game in zone defense.
All right, as for Georgia's quarterback, Stetson Bennett tossed a couple of picks in this game. JT Daniels healthy. He's ready to go. Do you expect Kirby Smart to go back to Daniels next week?
I don't. I think they will start to play Daniels starting next week, though, and get him the reps. I think looking at the game, and it's complicated. Stetson's doing well. The offense fits him. But, he was beaten out by JT Daniels at the beginning of the year. He got to play because of the injury. He's done well. It's a tough call here. As we've been saying throughout the game, Georgia's only going to be judged by one thing this year: winning the SEC championship, getting in the playoffs, and competing right up to the last play for the national championship. No matter what Kirby decides, if they don't win at all, he's going to be second-guessed. I would play and start to get some reps for JT Daniels, but I still would start Stetson Bennett.
Georgia taking on Missouri next week. Georgia the favorite to win the national title. Last time Georgia won a national championship back in 1980, led by running back Herschel Walker. Now this Georgia team led by its stout defense. Gary Danielson joining us postgame here on CBS Sports HQ. Gary, thanks for the time. Thanks for your perspective.
You got it. Thanks, guys.
Great conversation, as always, with Gary Danielson. You take a look at Georgia's upcoming schedule, as I mentioned, taking on Missouri next week, and really the only team rest of way on the schedule that could possibly trip up Georgia is on the road at Tennessee. Georgia has just absolutely dominated its SEC opponents. They've won all 6 of its SEC games this season by 17 points or more in each game. Get some more analysis. Welcome in 2-time Super Bowl champ Bryant McFadden, CBS Sports HQ college football analyst Barrett Sallee. B-Mac, I'll start with you because this defense is just academic for them. I mean, another clinic is what they put out on tape, what they put out on the field. We talked about how this was going to be a mismatch for Florida, and it was. What did you see once again from this Georgia defense?
There's just consistency on all three levels defensively. These guys are well coached. They understand their assignments. They tackle well, and they play hard. So when you factor in the recruiting they've been able to do over the last few years there in Athens, and then being able to get these guys to be dialed in and to buy into the system, and their athleticism just plays a big part, this is what you get. These are the results you get. I mean, defensively, they got so many 4 and 5 stars on their defense. They've been coached extremely well, and these guys are playing with so much confidence. If they're not going to beat themselves. And we saw earlier in the ballgame a few trick plays that Florida tried to capitalize on. Guess what? They did what they were supposed to do. Every guy is doing what they're supposed to do based on their assignments, and they utilize their fundamentals so well. So this has been the storyline for Georgia. And that's why they've been one of the more consistent teams, especially on the defensive side, because their defense, they do what they're supposed to do week in and week out.
Yeah, I mean, this is the culmination of Kirby Smart's vision, right? When he got there to be a recruiter. That was job number one because Mark Richt, not to slight Mark Richt, but it had slipped a little bit, and he wasn't taking advantage of the gift that he had being in the state of Georgia. Kirby Smart built and built and built these classes. And look at that defense. You have to go all the way down the list of players who made an impact today to find guys who are still superstars. We didn't even hear Jordan Davis's name all that much. I mean, Christopher Smith wasn't even really a factor. Those guys are stars. And when you get a guy like Adam Armstrong or Anderson, you don't talk about him in a game where your defense dominates, I mean, I don't know what you do. I mean, this is Kirby Smart's vision. This is what he was hired to do. He's done it. And this defense is so good. You can count on this defense going through a spurt, maybe not as effectively as it did against Florida, but going through a segment of the game where it just flips a game sideways almost every single week. It does not fail, and that's because Kirby Smart has kept his vision intact, executed it, and now has a defense that is not only 2 deep, it's really 3 deep at this point.
So, Barrett, when you have a team like Georgia, we know how good they are. We got to poke holes. Where are their vulnerabilities? Of course, you could say the quarterback position. What would you say they're most vulnerable at?
I don't think it's I mean, Jack Podlesny missed a field goal today. I mean, that's about it. I mean, I can't really. I guess maybe if you're gonna nitpick, it's wide receiver, specific wide receiver. But they used Darnell Washington. They used Brock Bowers as tight ends. And look, I mean, Ladd McConkey's a good player, but I don't think you necessarily want him being a number 1. I don't think they have an issue at quarterback. And again, I don't necessarily think they have an issue at wide receiver. They don't necessarily have a true number 1, which is not necessary, but a lot of teams do have that. Jamar Chase at LSU 2 years ago, obviously Devontae Smith last year. Maybe George Pickens is that guy when he comes back, and he will come back. So it's not quarterback Stetson Bennett. He can win a national championship. JT Daniels, he can win a national championship. Is there a go-to number 1 receiver? No, not right now, at least not one that's healthy. And does it really matter? No, it doesn't, because Georgia's defense is just that good.
I mean, yeah, this is a difficult question because we haven't seen Georgia, face stiff competition since week 1 against Clemson. So I would say if I had to pick, probably quarterback, right? I think, we haven't seen JT in a long, long time, and Stetson didn't have his best game. 2 costly interceptions that didn't hurt them because his defense bailed them out. But if you're playing in the playoffs, you're playing good on good. You're playing against other guys that will probably get drafted as well. And your quarterback will probably need to be more efficient. Now, like I said, I'm trying to twist my arm here, try to find something that could be a weakness. It's very, very difficult, but I probably would say quarterback.
So then I guess this is a question that I asked Gary. Are you sticking with Stetson Bennett? He throws a couple of picks. He's making some deep shots. Or are you bringing back JT Daniels? We know he's already ready and available, and he's healthy to play. You bring him back next week against Missouri, Barrett.
I play them both. I would start Stetson and just say, hey, guys, look, settle it on the field. And I think both of those guys are team guys. They would be okay with that. But at this point, I think with what Stetson did not have a great game today. I don't think there's any doubt about that. But he does bring some mobility. We saw that over the last couple of weeks. And he does make plays out on the perimeter, which I think is really important for this team because they have so many talented athletes that they find ways to get open. So I think right now, because Stetson has been so effective, I mean, look, the guy is averaging over 12 yards per completion. 12 yards per attempt. That's insane. That is insane numbers. So he accomplishes what you need to accomplish in this offense. So I'd let him roll, but I'd say, hey, look, it's Missouri. They don't play a lick of defense. So, look, Stetson, go out there, do your best. JT, you go out there, do your best after Stetson gets done, and we'll settle it on the field. And, look, if you have two, I firmly believe, look, this can be an effective two-quarterback system. Just because you have two quarterbacks doesn't mean you have zero. They have two. They both are effective. They excel in different ways, and they can succeed in different ways.
I guess for me, it depends on how JT looks in practice. If he practices, gets a full week of prep, he looks pretty good. If he was their starting quarterback before the injury, and if he's 100% clear to go from the medical staff, he feels extremely good. Let's roll with him. I'm okay in allowing Stetson to get that start as well. But if JT Daniels is your quarterback, if everyone on that offensive staff believe JT Daniels is the best quarterback you have in the building when he is healthy, at some point in time, he needs to get back into the starting lineup. If that's your guy, if you have reservations on if he is your guy, then continue to route with the mailman. But I think many people there inside the building believe that JT is the best quarterback. He actually beat Stetson Bennett out, but because of an injury, it allowed Stetson to take advantage of the opportunities, to get an opportunity. He's done well. So me personally, it's about the week of preparation. You know what I mean? How he's looking mentally and physically to determine who should start. But I am okay. I agree if they both play against Missouri, but at some point in time, if JT is your guy, he needs to get back in the starting lineup.
Meantime, Bulldogs 8-0 for the first time since 2017. Time now for the Bonobos perfect pair. Which two players were a great pair in the Georgia-Florida game? Start with you, B-Mac.
Defense. I know people saying defense don't win championships anymore. We might see defense win a championship this year in college football if everything goes accordingly. So for me, my perfect pair is coming from UGA defensively. Nakobe Dean, pick six, big-time pick six from the linebacker out there playing like a DB, playing like the cornerback position, ran a stop route, the running back did, and he jumped it, pick six to the house. And what about Nolan Smith, fumble recovery and also an interception as well. These two guys definitely broke the game away in the first half for Georgia, not to mention what they did tackling as well. My perfect connection, my perfect pair is coming from the defensive side, Nakobe Dean and Nolan Smith.
All right, my perfect pair, look, we have to pick something in offense, right? So I'm kind of reaching here, but I'm going to go Stetson Bennett to Brock Bowers. We've seen him throughout the course of the season. And look, there was a little time in the second half that Emory Jones kind of sparked some life into Florida. And then, bam, Stetson Bennett hits Brock Bowers down the sideline for a big gain. And then it was all over. So, look, we have to pick some sort of offensive play here. My perfect pair, not just for today, but also throughout the course of the season, is Stetson Bennett to Brock Bowers. They did have a big play today. You won't see it in the box score. You won't see it in the highlights. But it did make a big difference when Florida still had a little bit of inkling of hope in this game.
Bonobos perfect pair, our pair, a perfect pair. Bryant McFadden, Barrett Sallee. Well done, men. Hey, check out B-Mac on his podcast, All Things Covered. Speaking of a perfect pair, B-Mac and Patrick Peterson, former LSU star and Vikings corner. They got Adam Thielen on the pod this week. It's entertaining. It's engaging. Talk to some of the biggest names in both the sports and entertainment worlds. All Things Covered. Download and follow today.